Prater the Ballgame, KTIK the ticket. Been waiting all day for this interview, Prater. As you know, I'm a Washington State Cougar historian, among many other teams I follow.
Oh, geez.
And this was actually the first quarterback I ever interviewed after getting a press pass, 2007, when they beat the Idaho Vandals. Joining us on our Double Tap Pub hotline, former Washington State Cougar record-setting quarterback, third all-time in touchdown passes, third all-time in yards passing, and they've had a ton of good quarterbacks up there on the Palouse. 4-year starter. Now he's the Washington State Cougar radio analyst for football. He'll be on the call on the Blue this Saturday. He's Alex Brink. What's going on, Alex? Welcome to Boise, Idaho.
Boys, how we doing? Thanks for having me.
Heck yeah, Brink. Dude, we heard earlier today, in 2003, without ever being in Boise before in your life, you're a Eugene, Oregon kid. You committed to play quarterback at Boise State under Dan Hawkins? What?
This is accurate. The only small nugget there is did go on an official visit, so I got to see the beautiful, bustling town of Boise at that time. But boy, I tell you what, I mean, Coach Hawk, Chris Peterson, the whole crew over there, I was ready to go, in all honesty. And then Washington State offered me 2 weeks before signing day, and kind of pulled the rug out, so to speak. But Coach Hawk was awesome about it. Got to connect with him after the fact as I got older. And
wow.
I would have been very happy there for sure, but went a different path.
You know, Alex, and we're talking to Alex Brink, former Washington State quarterback. We're going to dive into John Mateer this weekend and how you handle a guy like that with magic legs. But I found this story, and it wasn't Johnny Ballgame story, my partner. And I apologize if he interviewed you way back in the day and he was a cheerleader and had a lot of fun with you. But this story in the Moscow Pullman Daily News actually brings up your mother and how she felt about you when you were going through those 2 weeks. You had committed to Boise State. Now all of a sudden here comes Washington State. And this story talked about your mother. When you commit to something, you follow through with that. So I just ask you, just based on the timing, your mother, how would she feel about what happened at UNLV last night?
Yeah, she would not be fired up with that by any means, for sure. That is a wild story. And boy, I tell you what a indictment on the state of college football for sure in this moment.
Alex Brink with us. And obviously you heard me say you were a Cougar great, and there have been a lot of them. We have Ryan Leaf coming on tomorrow. He's another one. But John Mateer, Alex Brink, is he next on that list? You know this guy well. He's not a one-year transfer coming. He's been there for a couple years. Tell the folks in Boise, tell Bronco Nation what they're in store for Saturday night watching this kid ball on the Blue.
Well, unfortunately for Bronco Nation, John Mateer is the real deal. I mean, he's got a lot of things going for him physically, obviously. I mean, his ability to run the football at the quarterback position is elite. I mean, you're not going to find too many people in the country at any level of ball that run the ball at the quarterback position like John Mateer. He throws it really well too. Now, you're going to ride the roller coaster a little bit with that being a young quarterback, right? Only a redshirt sophomore. This is his first year starting, so he'll make some mistakes at times throwing the football, but then he'll make some otherworldly throws too. So, Coug fans are dealing with that a little bit, but boy, when you have a guy that can rush for 100, 150, 200 yards, breaks tackles, rarely gets sacked because of that ability, he can throw well on the run, you kind of take the good with the bad at times. So he's fun to watch. He really is. For an opposing defensive coordinator, he's an absolute nightmare because you don't know how to play it, right? If you try and play zone and, just try and draw back in coverage, he'll torch you with his legs. Or the running game for Washington State has been much improved this year, and they'll beat you that way. If you try and play man coverage and blitz him, if you miss, he'll score. And so I think that's what UW tried to do, and he made him pay a couple times. Texas Tech tried to stay in coverage, and Cougs just ran the football down their throat. So it's a really balanced attack for the Cougs at time, and John Mateer is the trigger man doing a really nice job.
Only quarterback to win 3 Apple Cups with us right now, Alex Brink, radio analyst for Cougar football. He'll be here this weekend. Mobile quarterbacks, running quarterbacks. I would say Mateer, he's more of a running quarterback than a mobile quarterback, right? A lot of times he doesn't buy time to throw it. He buys time to take off. Analyze that a little bit and the difference between maybe a mobile guy and just a running quarterback. A lot of that stuff, it's designed, Alex?
Yeah, a lot of it's designed. I mean, he'll probably get I don't think they want to do it as much as they did against Texas Tech, where he had 20 plus carries, but they're going to try and design probably 8 to 10 runs for him a game. He'll find some in the pocket, as far as in the drop back pass game. He'll scramble and get out. He showed over the last couple of weeks against San Jose State and Washington, he does a nice job keeping his eyes downfield and finding receivers, which is another really dangerous part, right? When he gets out of the pocket. What he does really well, and this is the thing that, for defensive linemen and linebackers and defensive players can be really hard. He steps up in the pocket really well. So he'll avoid that rush, right? He won't bail out the back and get caught for big sacks. Steps up through the pocket, and then, man, when he sees green grass, he's gone. And when I say that he's a running back playing quarterback, I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I mean, when you watch him run the football, he makes cuts at full speed. He can get to top gear. He breaks tackles. He does a decent job of trying to avoid hits for the most part, but he's a pretty strong dude. So, I mean, to your point about him not just being mobile and being able to, avoid rushes, I mean, he's a threat. He's a threat to score anywhere on the field.
John Mateer, he's 6'1", 220 pounds, and he is going to be Boise State's worst nightmare on Saturday night. He's the Washington State quarterback. Right now we're talking to Alex Brink, a former Washington State quarterback. He's coming into town on the radio broadcast for the Cougars. John Mateer, in terms of this is his third season, I know that first year, I think he just played one quick game. As you've been with this program and as he's been with this program, how has his game evolved beyond maybe just the running part of it?
Well, he's definitely become a better passer. I mean, he came as a pretty lightly recruited, 3-star recruit, but lightly recruited out of Dallas, Texas, Little Elm. It's a big time league that he played in, some of the best high school football in the country. The team was okay, and he kind of carried them for the most part. But again, he wasn't asked to do as much pass game, as some guys are. And so, he's evolved in that sense. The thing that has struck me about John Mateer is that he's the ultimate competitor, man. Like when the lights are bright, he wants to make the big play. He's a fantastic leader. I mean, the team really rallied around him. And you're talking about, again, a kid that's only a redshirt sophomore. Even though he's been there for 3 years, he has really gotten everybody to buy in. And this was before he was playing great. This was going into the year. So, again, I don't want to be hyperbolic, but he's definitely the total package. He's got things that he can keep getting better at, but for a young player, he's shown some real flashes.
I would imagine John Mateer, and break this down into real specifics here, on third down and maybe mid-range, let's say 6 to 10 yards. He's dangerous, and he's going to pick up the third down almost every time, isn't he?
I mean, the best example I can give you is the first game of the season. You're playing Portland State. Cougs go 3 and out on their first drive. They go 3 and out on their second drive. And on the third drive, they have a 3rd and 10, and they're down 7-0, right? And so you're kind of sitting there going, oh, man, what's going to happen here? Portland State sends an all-out blitz. Guy comes free, all by himself, clear shot at John Mateer. And Mateer shakes him off. I mean, literally throws the guy off of him and then scrambles for a first down. And then the very next play throws a touchdown pass. And then pretty much after that, this team's been rolling offensively. So, yeah, if you miss on third down, he's going to make the play. And so that's where you, as a defense coordinator, you're trying to figure out the best way to do it. And he's probably faster and more athletic than most spy type of players that you would put out there in a typical defense.
Great stuff here with Alex Brink. Led the Pac-10 in passing yards a few years back. Michael Bumpus, Brandon Gibson, Jason Hill, some great teams up there on the Palouse. And you know what it's like to be the starting quarterback at Washington State in Pullman, Alex. That's a big deal. How big is John Mateer getting in Pullman? Any chance he reaches Minshew mania status? You've been there for all these, man.
Yeah, no, he's getting there for sure, in the sense that he's got some of those Minshew-like charismatic qualities, right? I mean, you interview him. If you guys ever have a chance to talk to him, he's got this kind of aw shucks mentality. A lot of it's probably from being from Texas, and very unassuming in that regard, but high confidence individual. And so he's just fantastic to get along with and be around. And so people are looking at a guy that's 4-0 and kind of lit the world on fire in his first season starting. And he's no different than when he was in spring ball, right? Those type of qualities in Pullman go a long way, right? And that's how Gardner was. He was a man of the people, whether the team was 1-0 or 11-0, right? It didn't really matter.
John Mateer, he had 17 attempts in that Portland State game you talked about, Alex, and every game since it's gone up, 19, 34, And then against San Jose State, obviously in double overtime, 46 attempts. What is his magic sweet spot when it comes to pass attempts with this specific offense?
Yeah, I think you'd like to be in that low 30s range. Again, Washington State's found some great balance in the running game, not just with John Mateer. Wayshawn Parker, the true freshman running back, has been a revelation. I mean, this is a team that was almost dead last in the country last year in yards rushing per game, just barely over 80 yards rushing. And now it's a team that's averaging north of 150, right? And they've completely turned that side of the game around. And so Ben Arbuckle, the offense coordinator, he wants to throw it. But this is not Mike Leach's air raid, right? He wants to have balance. He wants to keep Mateer in that, again, 8 to 10 range when it comes to rush attempts. And he'd like, the running backs to carry the load. And then if you're throwing the ball, 30, 32 times a game, you probably feel really good about it.
Alex Brink with us, Double Tap Pub Hotline, former Cougar quarterback, now their radio analyst with Chris King. They'll be on the call on the Blue on Saturday night. I want to transfer out of Mateer and just get some Coug talk and Pac-12 talk with you, Alex Brink. And I'm looking at the Cougars schedule as I have all year, and you thought maybe the Texas Tech and Washington were the two big bugaboos in non-con. You got out of that. You survived the scare of San Jose State losing a game that you probably feel you should win. If the Cougars win on the Blue on Saturday night, does CFP talk begin in Pullman? They'll be favored in every game after Boise State, except maybe at Fresno. I mean, how's the committee going to keep an undefeated Cougar team out, or 11-1? How good can this team be if they win on the Blue Saturday, Alex?
Well, I certainly think they're not going to keep an undefeated team out. So it's very realistic, right? If you get past this one, which is a tall task in and of itself, you're going to be very much in conversation. And, I think what UNLV is kind of the other team right now with Memphis losing in that kind of quote unquote group of five conversation. Again, Boise would be also if they only had one loss, but as far as undefeated teams, it really starts to be a very real thing. And to your point about the schedule, when we came into this season, people would ask me, how many wins do you think the team's going to get? Where do you think they're at? Look, in the end, for Washington State in particular, Oregon State was in the same boat, but for the Cougs to be relevant on a national scale, they had to win a lot of games this season, not just, 7 or 8, feel good about it. I mean, they had to be double-digit wins, right? And so that keeps them in that kind of, hey, we deserve to be in the conversation about a power league and so on and so forth. Well, they've kind of gotten off to the start they wanted. But they did this last year. They went 4-0. They beat a ranked Wisconsin team. They beat a ranked Oregon State team. And then the wheels fell off a little bit. So, again, for me, even though I'm a Coug, I'm still reserving judgment to see really Saturday what it looks like, because San Jose State is better than for sure I think people thought they were going to be, but Coug should have been able to handle that one a little bit better probably than they did. And so, I think it's a big test on the, as you said, against the Broncos. I'm excited to see it, but if they get by, all bets are off when it comes to making a run at the CFP.
All right, Alex Brinks, I know this isn't the most exciting part of this Washington State football season, but we got to talk. We might be conference brothers here in a couple of years. As a matter of fact, it looks like that's going to happen. And my specific question to you is, because I get it. I get the past. I get the history, and I get the angst moving forward. But can we guarantee that, and I'm going to even throw Oregon State into this, because they're taking a hit, and they're going to have to regroup. And hopefully at the end of the day, it's all going to be fine. And we need the fan bases in Corvallis and Pullman to be just as spectacular as they've been over these last couple of years. Will the fan base in Pullman and the whole Washington State family and the whole Pacific Northwest region, will they be engaged with football as they have been in the past going forward with this new plan?
Yeah, I really believe they will. And here's why is, I believe very firmly that, as college football has kind of ventured down this path, there's a real mistake that's being made at the highest levels. And the mistake is that, they believe everybody wants to tune in and watch, Alabama SC all the time, or that I'll watch USC Iowa just because, right? And the reality is that's not the case. Most fans and most teams are like Boise State and Washington State, and they're regional, right? They have regional fan bases. They have regional viewership. And then when they play the big games, of course, everybody's going to watch, but in the end, and I grew up in the Pac and the West Coast college football and everything west of the Mississippi, and people would rather watch that. And I believe that Washington State fans, as long as their team is still competitive and great football, they're invested in this future. And I believe that that's a product that everybody can get behind, including networks and including the streaming opportunities. And Boise State and Washington State and, Oregon State and even Fresno and San Diego State are going to be national brands people will tune into, and they're going to compete for championships. And in the end, if you're competing for championships, people are paying attention and you're a part of the conversation. And I believe that's the way college athletics are built. And I think it's going to stay that way moving forward.
He's third all time in touchdown passes in Washington State Cougar football history. Alex Brink with us right now. And Alex, I got to say, this is an impressive interview. Radio analyst. Are you in media full time? What do you do when you're not calling Cougar football? Honestly.
No, I moonlight as the radio analyst for Washington State. I also have a show on Root Sports Northwest, which is a regional champ with my buddy and good friend Michael Bumpus, former receiver.
Oh yeah,
where we talk Cougar football. It's called Talking Cougars, so you can check that out on YouTube and Spotify. But my full-time job, actually, I own a company called E4 Sports, where we develop young athletes in the kind of Portland Metro, Southwest Washington area. We have a young man that's committed to Boise State to play receiver, Gavin Packer. So we work with high school football, basketball, baseball, youth athletes, college and pro, all of the above. We do a lot of that, have facilities here. It's very fun.
Well, we got your number. We're going to keep using it. Alex Brink, enjoy your travels to Boise. I'll pop over and say hello on Saturday. I've met you before. I'll introduce myself again. This has been a lot of fun, Alex Brink. You made us a lot smarter about this situation. Appreciate you.
Yeah, sure. Looking forward to it. Call me anytime, guys. Thank you.
There he is, Alex Brink, right here on Prater and the Ball Game. Prater, let's hop on them soapboxes.
This is Idaho Sports Talk with Prater and the Ball Game, brought to you by RowPaint.com. For over 24 years, RowPaint.com has provided high-quality paint and coating solutions.